She built the empire. They built the table. But when they laughed, they forgot. She owned the room. And when she picked up that phone, it wasn't to ask permission. It was to pull the plug. The elevator doors slid open with a soft, mechanical sigh, and Amara Lewis stepped out into the golden light of the Plaza Hotel ballroom. Her heels made a crisp, assured rhythm on the marble. Sharp, steady, like punctuation. People turned, not all the way, just enough to clock the movement, then look past it. She adjusted the cuff of her ivory blazer, slow and precise, as though smoothing armor into place. Photographers flared and snapped, but not for her. They wanted the Whitmores, the movie stars, the finance titans in borrowed tuxedos. She moved through it with the elegance of someone too used to not being seen until it's too late. Her smile was fixed, full of brightness and weight, a smile meant to carry. Near the fountain, a couple in pearls and panic turned to her. "Hi there," the woman said, waving vaguely at the flutes on the silver tray. "Would you mind grabbing a couple of those?" Amara held the woman's eyes a beat too long, then smiled. "I built the app paying for this whole party." She picked up 2 glasses and handed them over, each movement clean and intentional. "Enjoy." They laughed in that disoriented way people do when the rules just bent around them. The man said, "Wow," like a joke. They drifted off, drinks in hand, conversation already shifting. She walked on, leaving their discomfort behind like a scent in the air. The ballroom was cathedral tall, its chandeliers glowing with that soft, expensive light that makes everyone look richer. The room moved around her. Waiters, whispers, sharp dresses, sharper laughter. No one stopped her. No one called her name. At one corner of the hall stood a strange centerpiece, an antique ivory rotary phone, set delicately on a pedestal of glass. A plaque read, "Call the future," a joke for the camera. PR gloss. Amara paused by it for just a second. The phone didn't ring. Of course not, she moved on. "Didn't know they made CEOs in couture," said a voice behind her, just loud enough to cross the noise of the room. She turned. Blake Carrington IV, navy tux, glossy hair, a smile trained since boarding school, was sipping whiskey and watching her with the lazy confidence of someone born on third base. She blinked. "And they didn't think hedge funds could run on blockchain either," she said. "Yet, here we are." His smile didn't falter, but the gap behind his eyes yawned a little wider. "Sure," he said, and turned away as if he'd won something. In a corner suite off the ballroom, she waited for the formal announcement. The merger. $500 million. Her fingers toyed with the clasp of her clutch, then opened it. Inside, a worn, folded note sat against the velvet lining. A man's handwriting, rough and slanted. "Don't ever get used to begging rooms that wouldn't open for you." Her fingers trembled slightly. She wasn't sure why. She folded the note again and slid it back into the dark. Back inside, voices spiked. The Whitmores had arrived. Charles Whitmore was in his late 60s, tall, gleaming, practiced. Eleanor wore a dress like frostbite. Beautiful and dangerous. Blake followed behind them, offering practiced smiles, already forgetting hers. Eleanor's gaze found Amara. She stepped forward, all polished teeth and jewels. "We were so glad to have someone different in the room tonight," she said, brushing her cheek in a too intimate, too public gesture. Amara nodded once. "I imagine it keeps things interesting." Dinner. White linens, low candlelight, soft laughter over legacy wealth. Charles argued with his cousin about ESG compliance. Amara said nothing at first. Then she spoke, voice even and precise. She explained carbon offset structures, fiscal parity, the long game of ethical capital. There was a pause. She thought they might be listening. "Well," Charles said finally, chuckling into his drink, "aren't you the polished little encyclopedia?" She looked down at her plate, then up again. Her eyes didn't change, but something behind them closed. In the lull between courses, a server stumbled. A tray crashed, crystal and bubbles everywhere. The room recoiled, like a single body. Amara stood without hesitation, helped the boy to his feet. He couldn't have been older than 20. His hands shook. He muttered an apology, cheeks burning. "It's fine," she said, brushing champagne off his sleeve. "You're fine." Across the table, a woman in a backless dress leaned toward her cousin and whispered, "Just loud enough. They really do stick together." Amara heard it. She didn't flinch, didn't answer. She just sat back down and looked at her plate. The noise returned. The music, the wine, the talk. All of it swelled back in like a tide. She sat perfectly still in the middle of it. Her jaw was relaxed. Her spine wasn't. She turned her head slightly, just enough to see the ivory phone, still untouched on its pedestal. She stared at it for a long moment, like trying to remember something. Then rose, quietly. The balcony doors opened with a hush of velvet curtains. She stepped into the June air, warm, heavy. The hum of the city far below and above her, the chandelier light glowing faint against the night. She leaned against the rail, eyes unfocused. Somewhere far below, a siren drifted. She closed her eyes. The door opened again. A faint clink of silverware. The music dipped. Her cue. Back inside, the lights lowered. A spotlight carved through the air. Charles stood, grinning into the cameras. And now," he said, "we welcome the brilliant young mind behind this merger. A true pioneer." Amara walked forward, every step measured. People clapped, but without urgency, without investment. She stepped onto the stage. Her smile didn't flicker, not yet. In her mind, "You are not here to be liked. You're here to be undeniable." The applause faded. A silence settled, and the deal hadn't even begun. The screen flickered. A hush passed over the ballroom like a ripple in silk. One of the event staff leaned in behind the curtain, whispered something into Charles Whitmore's ear. He frowned, glanced at Amara. 10-minute delay. Some issue with the live stream, he said, already reaching for a drink. "No need to look so serious. You've already won." Amara didn't answer. Her fingers rested on the podium, her thumb slowly tracing the edge. She could feel the lacquered wood under her skin, cool and solid. Her eyes drifted, not to him, not to the cameras, but to the back of the room, where the rotary phone still sat under a glass case, untouched. "You think I'm grateful," she thought. "You think you handed me this." Her phone buzzed in her clutch. She glanced at the screen, a message from her CFO. "Just keep it smooth tonight. We need this." She read it twice, then flipped the phone face down on the table. Her palm rested on it for a second longer than necessary. The sound of cutlery resumed. Glasses clinked. Laughter returned like a draft. The air felt different now. Tighter. A little sour. She didn't speak, but her breath shifted. Lower. Slower. For a moment, her eyes unfocused. and the chandeliers above faded, and in their place, another light, harsh, yellow. A Brooklyn apartment years ago. One bulb hanging from the ceiling, wires on the floor, an old laptop with duct tape on the hinge. She was 19, sitting cross-legged, surrounded by takeout boxes and code that wouldn't compile. Her mother sat behind her, gently braiding her hair. "You don't need to be perfect, baby," her mom had said, fingers working slow and sure. "You just need to not quit." The memory passed like breath on glass, and then she was back in the ballroom. A butler, older, thin, quiet, approached her from the side. White gloves, no expression. He held out a folded napkin, inside, a single handwritten line. "They don't deserve you. Whatever you do tonight, make it yours." No name, just the message. He didn't wait. He nodded once and moved on. She folded the note and slid it into her clutch beside her father's. Across the stage, Charles raised a glass. He was telling some story about risk and innovation, all the right buzzwords dressed up in trust fund polish. Blake sat beside him, bored, half drunk, drumming his fingers on the table. Then, with a grin, Blake stood. "Before the formalities," he said, his voice rising across the room, "I thought we'd lighten the mood." He walked toward the phone on the pedestal. Everyone turned. The spotlight followed. "Now, since this is a celebration of the future," he said, lifting the receiver, "I figured, why not let Amara make the first call?" Laughter. Light. Unsure. Then fuller. He walked the phone across the stage, cord dragging behind like a leash, held it out to her. "Here," he said. "Why don't you call the kitchen and ask for a refill?" The room exploded. Not loud, but sharp. Controlled. Designer laughter. Cameras flashed. Dozens of faces all turned to her. Smiles like glass. Eleanor tilted her head, amused. Charles didn't stop it. He just sipped his drink. Amara didn't move. The phone sat heavy in her hand. Cold. Real. She blinked once. Just once. Then brought the receiver to her ear. Her voice, when it came, was soft, clear. "Hi, this is Amara Lewis. Cancel the merger. Effective immediately." There was a pause so deep it swallowed the music. A tray dropped. Somewhere a camera beeped. The staff froze. Her team stood. The lawyer beside her looked like he'd been slapped. Charles stood too, incredulous. "What do you think you're doing?" She turned to him slowly. "Exactly what I should have done hours ago." The silence didn't fill the room. It cracked it down the middle. Blake took a step forward. "You'll regret this, sweetheart." Amara's eyes didn't leave his. "Better than regretting who I became to impress you." The whole crowd watched her like an animal in a cage. Dangerous, unpredictable, fascinating. Someone, she couldn't see who, typed furiously on a phone. A reporter, maybe. No one laughed now. Amara turned, the phone receiver still swinging slightly behind her on its coil, and walked off stage. No music followed her. No polite applause. Only the soft sound of her heels on the marble, carrying her out of the ballroom. The phone behind her swayed once more. Then was still. Morning light filtered through the slats of an old window in Brooklyn, striping the kitchen table with quiet gold. Amara sat barefoot, elbows on the wood, a coffee mug cupped in both hands. The air was still. A soft buzz came from her phone on the counter, but she didn't move. She stared past the steam rising from her mug, out to the rooftop beyond the glass. Pigeons shifted along the ledge. A siren moaned somewhere distant. Her phone buzzed again. This time she rose and picked it up. A voice on the other end. Calm, curious, clipped. Ms. Lewis, I assume you're aware you walked away from $500 million last night. She took a sip of coffee, let the heat settle before answering. I didn't walk away. I walked towards something better. There was a pause. We'll be in touch, the voice said. Click. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. Marcus, her operations lead, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, still in yesterday's tie. His eyes were tired. We're getting calls. Some board members are... He sighed. Worried. She nodded. And by worried, I mean furious. I'm not sorry. No one's asking you to be sorry, he said. They're asking how we survive this. She set the mug down gently. If they want to be bought by disrespect, they're free to find someone else to run this. He didn't smile, but something in his posture eased. He pushed off the wall and left without another word. Her inbox had become a war zone. News clips, threats, apologies, offers. One link kept resurfacing. Grainy phone footage from the gala. Her standing on stage. The rotary phone in her hand. The way the room laughed. The way it stopped. The video had gone viral overnight. She canceled. It was everywhere. On CNBC, Eleanor Whitmore sat composed, telling the cameras, "We wish Ms. Lewis all the best. These decisions are emotional, that's all I'll say." But her son's smirk on stage had been caught from 3 angles. That didn't age well, and the internet didn't forgive quickly. By noon, someone slid a package under her door. No return address. Inside, the ivory rotary phone. No note. Just the object. She stared at it a long time, then placed it on the corner of her desk, not as a centerpiece, as a scar, a relic, a promise. Later that week, a call came in from a clean energy startup based in Colorado. Younger company, diverse team, strong numbers. Same valuation. They said more values. Amara didn't say yes right away. She took a long walk first. No headphones. No assistant trailing her. Just her and the weight of what had broken loose. When she came back, she called them. "Let's build something no one can laugh at," she said. A few days later, she sat at her desk and began typing. Not a press release, a letter. I didn't walk out because I was angry. I walked out because we confuse wealth with wisdom, and I'm done pretending those are the same. She signed it, sent it. By morning, the letter had spread like fire through the business world. Other women, founders, analysts, interns, began posting. Quiet, careful stories. One read, "I've stayed silent in rooms that shrank me. Last night, Amara reminded me that silence is also a choice." She scrolled through the replies with a still face, but her chest felt strange, like she'd been holding her breath for years and didn't realize she could exhale. A clip aired on Bloomberg. Another woman CEO. Live interview. A question laced in condescension. She paused, smiled, then stood up and walked off air. Later, in a statement, she cited Amara by name. Months passed, then a year. A new gala. Same ballroom. New banner. Amara arrived in a dark emerald suit. No entourage, no press alerts. She moved through the room with the same quiet grace. But this time, heads turned. Conversations paused. Someone whispered. Someone clapped. She walked to the stage, not for a contract, for a keynote. The rotary phone now sat behind glass, preserved like a museum piece. A plaque beneath it read, "The call that changed the game." She stood at the podium. The room was full. She waited until the crowd quieted. "Some rooms will never love you," she said. "But if you speak loud enough, they'll learn to listen." She paused, turned her head slightly, looked at the phone, then walked away.